Okay, welcome back, everybody. A pre-race interview for one of the athletes of 2025 before CCC from Boulder, Colorado, Mr. Chris Myers. Chris, thanks for coming in studio, bro.
Thanks for having me.
Your first time here to actually race, but you came to Chamonix last year more as a spectator and as an observer.
And a crew member.
Who'd you crew last year?
I crewed John Ray and Lottie Brinks.
Okay.
Yeah, at Trion, and then a little bit of Valercine.
All right, so tell us what you learned, like what your first impressions were last year and what value you got out of attending UTMB not as a competitor last year that maybe you're going to be applying to your race next week.
Well, first of all, it was a lot more fun coming out here not to race.
Yes.
Because you can just, it's really hard to want to run a lot and also taper for a race, but I very quickly realized that the running out here is much different than it is in the US. So I pretty much decided I needed to come out quite a bit more early than I did previously to really, go native, become one of the locals. Well, not really, but just get familiar with the type of humidity and the type of grade you have to run or even hike up.
Yeah.
So just time, exposure, getting rid of jet lag.
I think it'll pay off, man. I mean, just like being here, and to your point, I think this is my 11th UTMB. I've only raced 3 times. So coming out here and not competing just as fun as actually pinning the bib on for our audience. Of course, all the races are not super easy to get into, but it's definitely a bucket list thing to just attend UTMB. I asked your buddy Eli Hemming about his pacing duties at Western States yesterday when they were here in studio. So I'd love to turn the tables and ask you about seeing Eli last year up there. We were just bantering about this before we got started, but seeing a friend of yours, somebody who, you train with and who you have a friendship with, bring home a win at a world final event. Obviously there's no stage bigger than this. So coming out of it last year and seeing your buddy accomplish that, any fun things that would be fun to talk about there? Or did it change the way you thought about your own abilities on this course or at these races?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me, gives you kind of an oh shit moment. Like, I have to race this guy now.
Yeah.
Like, he was great pacing me, I'm sure we'll be friendly, but we'll be out there competing, which should be, I think it'll be a really neat dynamic shift. Not too much because Eli's probably just going to be like way up there and I'll be like chasing him down. But it's really cool to see your friends do really cool things. And, when you train with them and you spend a lot of time with them, you are fairly, you pretty much know what they're capable of, but it's really cool when they put it together and have a great day like that. And I think just seeing him do that and hopefully being on a similar trajectory as Eli made me just feel like, wow, we're just buddies. We like doing this because we like doing it and we're doing really good. It's I don't know. It's a really wholesome feeling.
Yeah. Well, maybe getting ahead of ourselves here, but maybe it will play out like Western States where just like you and Caleb pushed each other to incredible performances. Maybe it'll be you and Eli here at CCC, but we can talk about that later. First of all, let's talk about Western States because you and I talked on the phone after the race, but we haven't done it in a public format. You ran 14:18. You absolutely 14:17. You sicko. Excuse me for that complete insult.
No. It was 14:17 high. Okay. So, I mean, if we round up, you're
no. We round down. 14. Okay. Low 14 is what we call that.
Basically 13.
Either way, dude. Like, just tell me how you're feeling now with a couple of months of perspective. Like, I'm sure things have settled a little bit. You've had an opportunity to put a little bit more contemplation into the day. How are you feeling about it?
Well, things have settled, but they also haven't settled because I've more or less been on the move since. But mentally and emotionally, it has settled a bit. Some days it still doesn't feel quite real. It was, like I was saying earlier with Eli and stuff, like they were very confident in me doing well at States, but you never know what anyone else is capable of on that day. So it's, there's always a bit of imposter syndrome. It's like, oh my gosh, I did that. And oh my God, people expect more out of me now. And I'm hoping I can do that. But overall it's settled in, as a very positive experience. And I think I can continue to do better from that. But I think, I don't know, like I'm still processing parts of that day because it was like, there's so much to unpack over 100 miles and a lot of it, you're just looking through a straw And sometimes you see pictures and photos of just like other parts of the day. It's like, I don't really remember that part. And, or you just like, you think about it, but I think that it's still starting to feel real. Seeing UTMB put me on the men to watch out for the top 5 indexes. Yeah. I didn't really realize how much UTMB or states fluffed my index.
Yes.
I definitely think me and Caleb stood on the shoulders of Killian for that.
Yeah.
But it was really cool to have it kind of sink in as something, like, you know, there are tangible effects of doing well at this race. Yeah. And it's like, oh, great. Now it's like, I can't really be a dark horse anymore. I can't really fly under the radar. And, you know, it does put a little bit of pressure on me to perform, but I think that's, you can't avoid it for too long if you're trying to fly under the radar and do well.
Did you surprise yourself there? I mean, you did beat Killian.
Well, that's something me and Caleb were talking about. Right after we left Robinson, we were running down, chasing down Seth. And he's like, doesn't it feel weird to be in front of Killian? And I'm like, it doesn't feel right. Like I've, grown up looking up to this guy, seeing all his content and just everything he's done and is still doing. And you're like, oh, this doesn't feel real. But at one point you just have to just focus in on what you're doing for your race. And if he's not there, then he's not there. But, I don't think it really felt like a special race until after Dusty Corners. I'm like, whoa, I'm leading states right now. And that was definitely a surprise, but it was more of like this is cool for now. It won't last. And I'm just going to maybe get buried, but this is cool while it lasts. Yeah. And then you kind of have to focus in and not believe that the best case scenario is going to happen in the last half of the race, because anything can happen. And I think when I got to the track, I was a little bit surprised, but then I saw the time and I was like, but I did say that I thought it was an hour. I thought I could do an hour faster. So yes, it was, it's always a surprise to have your day out there, because so much of it comes down to having a good day. So I was pleasantly surprised with that, but I did feel the effort was, appropriate for the amount of training and preparation I'd put into the race.
So cool. I recall in our post-race interview on the track, you saying something to the effect of, me and Caleb were kind of working together, stopped to take a leak, never saw him again. Maybe expand on that, because I think it is representative of what it is like racing at the front of these races. Now, and also remembering back to talking to Rod about the moment in 2024 when Jim got the final separation on him and how much that sort of haunted Rod. Yeah. I think those two things are examples or microcosms of the advancement of the sport. Do you think about that at all? Or are you?
Yeah. To that same effect, Rod during training camp pointed out the spot where Jim passed him. He's like, I need to go pee on that spot. But I could drop a GPS pin on the point where I peed and Caleb and I separated. So that's really interesting. You say that because you think about the way things happen in these races, and you kind of like check your watch sometimes. Like I remember when I saw Caleb take the lead in front of Roach, I like looked at my watch and clocked it around 6 miles into the race, because you kind of want to be able to tell your friends about what happened during the race. I was at 6 miles when that happened, or I was at 23 miles when this happened. But the peeing thing is a really interesting dynamic, especially in Western states. The first 20, 30 miles of the race, it shuffles every time you hit an aid station or every time someone stops to pee. So I remember we passed through the first aid station and I saw one person peel off to pee. I saw two. Then I went, because I'm like, all right, two's enough. And then everyone just scattered to start peeing. And I was like, yes, okay, we're all doing that. And then you all regroup and then you're in a different order. And then when we were, we went through Robinson and we were coming up to Miller's Defeat, and I was talking to Caleb and we're like, oh man, I need a pee. He's like, dude, me too. I'm like, do we just pee ourselves? We're doing well. But I'm like, but we're not close to any water for the next like 10 miles. And I'm like, I think I'm going to stop. He's like, okay, I'll stop. And then we run through Miller's Defeat. I'm like, all right, as soon as we hit the trail and are out of sight, I'm going to pee. And then we come around the corner and Seth's peeing. And Caleb's like, thank God. And then we all started peeing and we're just like, yes. And then we all kept going as a group. And then Hans caught up to us. He passes us and he was running me like 400 meters ahead of us. And we're like, all right, he's going to run. And then he stops to pee, and then we just all pass him again. It's just like every move that you make in a race is usually interrupted or switched up with the pee stop.
This is my favorite pre-race interview ever. An absolute deluge of pee stories from Western States and how it impacts the dynamic of the men's lead pack. Thank you, Chris Myers, for that amazing commentary.
Sure.
So fun. All right, so tell me how you're feeling now. And one of the things we chatted about with Abby Hall yesterday is sort of like the balance between the physical and the mental too. Obviously, like it's one thing to bounce back physically from Western States, especially when you're riding a high. I remember talking to Katie Scheid and her making the statement that recovery goes better when you feel really good about your performance. So you could comment on that, but also like, next Friday, you're going to have to go to the mental well too. So whether or not you're feeling ready to like press that button again.
Yeah, I think the scary thing about a more or less uneventful recovery process is how quiet it's been, because I'm like, is it too quiet? Can I trust this? Is anything going to flare up? Because post States, it felt very linear. Like, okay, I'm tired. I'm taking time off. I'm going to start slowly running again. And nothing really bothered me. So I've been fortunate enough to not really feel like I'm broken coming into this race, but it's also like maybe something, it's too quiet. Maybe something will pop up. But also to the effect of the mental part of it is, there's a lot of pressure to do well, because if you do well on one stage, people want to know if you're consistent. And if there's one thing I'd like to be is consistent. I mean, I've tried to do my best at these races, show up, not do anything too flashy during my build, and just, have good races. But like you were saying, going to the well, I think maybe when I first got here mid-July, I would say I was like a 2 out of 10 on the confidence scale. With, States, you get to see your crew like every 4 or 5 miles towards the end. And it's nice just seeing friends and having insane amount of support. And then you come to a new country with new rules, new terrain, and the comfort level just isn't quite there. And I felt very wary about starting this race. And then over the time I've spent here, it's really given me a lot more confidence and familiarity with the course and what to expect. And I would say I'm probably close to like a 7 or an 8 out of 10 out of confidence level. There's still a lot of, unsure about, how the weather's going to go. How am I going to feel? Or am I going to run 40 miles and then just my legs just give out? Right. You never know. But I do feel like it's been enough time for me to be ready to hurt for a while again. But I mean, there's only one way to find out. Yeah. So next Friday, I'm going to find out if I still got junk on my legs from States, or if I haven't mentally recovered, or maybe I'm fine. Maybe I just have a great day, or maybe I'm fine and I don't have a great day and I just get crushed by people who are just better at this terrain. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm just thinking back to last year. Of course, Hayden was 3rd at Western States and then won CCC. Yeah. But then like Caleb was it 5th at Western States and 12th at CCC. Yeah. Kind of rallied late, but certainly below his capacity. Rod was 2nd at Western States and 15th at CCC. So anyway, it could go either way, obviously. Anyway. Yeah. So I'm trying not to pump up too much of an expectation, because it's always nice to underpromise and then overdeliver. Totally. But I mean, you just mentioned wanting to be consistent, and you're nothing if not consistent this season. You won Chuckanut, 2nd at Lake Sonoma, 3rd at Lake Sonoma. Excuse me, 3rd at Lake Sonoma, 2nd at Western States, 30th at the VK. At the VK at Broken Arrow. I mean, I've been on the podium every single race I've done except for the VK this year, which is very neat. Yeah, of course. But I mean, okay, so the VK ruined that streak. Well, my question was more about, I mean, you've had an amazing season, the season of your life so far. You're Trail Runner of the Year contention at this point. I think Caleb's got that in the bag. Well, I mean, we go 10 deep. I mean, you're clearly like on track. If you have a really great one on Friday, you're right back in the mix to win. But I mean, you're having an amazing season. Maybe another podium. Who knows? Yeah. So what I'd love to have you talk about is like, also Chuckanut, Lake Sonoma, Western States, all fast and runnable. How'd you transition to mountain mode? What have you been focused on the last couple of weeks? I mean, Eli's going to make fun of me for this, but I like to try and run everything. I had a very sobering moment running up Green Mountain with Eli. I'm just running up the last, if anyone's run Green Mountain in Boulder, the last, quarter mile is just kind of a rock garden, very steppy, but it's tough to run, but I always try and run it. And I just remember Eli's telling me about something, and I'm just running. And then he's like, I'm really impressed you're running. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's just behind me hiking just as fast. And I'm like, so I've been trying to get a little bit better at that steep stuff. And I'm probably not going to go with poles because unfortunately I don't train with poles. And if you're not good with poles, they're probably going to slow you down. So I'm not trying to copy Hayden. I just suck at using poles. Yeah. So I think running out here and being specific with my training, I'm a big fan of specificity. So I've ran probably the course at least twice in the past month or so while I've been here. So I think just training on the course, training in this terrain, training in this humidity, being exposed to the swings of what the weather can bring with you, with whatever, it can be like really hot in one valley and then you'll cross over Grand Col Ferret and it's like rainy in Switzerland or something. Yeah. I think just being exposed to that has really helped me kind of switch, but also taking a large block of time off after Western and then just switching into just a completely different gear. It's almost like a factory reset. And I think that's helped me. But like I said, I'm still not sure how well it's helped. And I'm curious to find out if if I've effectively switched from runnable terrain to less runnable terrain. Mm-hmm. But I do think most of CCC is runnable. Even those steep little bits, I kept telling myself, is this as steep as Devil's Thumb? It's pretty close, and I ran Devil's Thumb. So I was like, I think I could run this. Yeah. So I guess I'm going to base a lot of my non-runnable and runnable things after parts of states.
Tell me a little bit about the course recon. Was there anything that surprised you as you were downloading it to your brain and thinking about visualizing how things might play out that, you might apply towards the race course? So when I came out here last year, I previewed the whole course in 2 days. I just half one day, half the next day. And I thought I really kind of had a pretty good grasp on it. And then when Brooks Camp was out here, we went and I love how they call it recce out here. Yeah, we recce'd the course. So I thought I knew more about the course until I ran it a second time. And I hadn't really wrapped my brain around, I guess, the strategy of it. I'd more just been like, okay, I've seen the course. But then when I ran it again, I really thought about, all right, how do I want to pace this section versus this section? Do I want to go hard on these climbs? And what kind of heart rate zones do I want to be at? What can I be at? Because I won't be coming in from Colorado this year with a little bit of elevation training. So maybe the tops of these climbs will bother me more than they would have. And I've just been thinking a lot more strategically and, putting myself in the race. Before I was like, okay, I'm doing this next year. I've got a year. I don't really need to think about racing it. I just need to think about seeing it. So I think that's definitely a big benefit. So do you actively monitor your heart rate data? Is that your way of checking in with yourself during races? Because the reason I'm asking is because I remember last year being out on the course at Bonatti early in the race, and Hayden, I had a chance to chat with him, jog with him for 100 meters during the race. And he was telling me about his heart rate data. And I just think it's kind of interesting of you saying earlier about how you clock in interesting moments in the race of just how the pros are evaluating themselves in real time. How do you use that data as it applies to actual race execution? I think it goes with the comfort level of the race. With states, I had a pretty good handle on what I wanted to do and how I wanted to feel. I think with this race, I might have to look at data a little bit more or less, more objectively, and just think about how my body's responding to the race rather than how I feel, because I'm not used to feeling a certain way. So how much can I hurt on these climbs might be a little bit more of a data point for me, rather than with states, I'm like, all right, I feel like this is a good pace. In fact, I at no point knew what the course record splits were for states. I wasn't really looking at my watch for anything other than just a cool moment here and there. Yeah. And I was just running with the competition. I'm hoping I can do some of that with CCC, but I also think it's important because it's going to be a 10 plus hour race. So I need to pace myself. And I've ran
over 10 hours, but that's just on the States course, which is wildly different. I mean, it's the same amount of vert just condensed into 40 less miles. And it's just going to be so different. So I think data really will help me center myself and get rid of any like doubt or of like, oh, am I really feeling bad? Am I working too hard, or can I work harder? I think it's definitely a good crutch to, lean on when you're not sure how you're going to feel.
Yeah. Cool.
It depends is the real answer.
Yesterday, Eli provided some extra color about the snorkel at the Rocky Chucky River crossing. And he made the comment of just like, how you, even in these like super high consequence moments when of course you're suffering, you have like this, you still have this like sense of humor in your spirit, which I think is like one of the things that makes you who you are and the athlete that you are. You don't need to reveal anything confidential, but I wondered if you might have any plans for CCC that are analogous.
Well, I mean, just like, okay, it's kind of like my first year at States. You get the race done, you build the comfort level with the race and just general, course prowess and whatnot. But I think this being my first time at CCC, I don't know if I really have bandwidth for extra stuff. Also, the crew points are so different. The thing about the snorkel is you can do that with very little consequence to your race. But I'm not sure there's too many opportunities to be stupid at CCC. It's a bigger stage. There's more people out there. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I won't say that I won't do anything silly, but I'm saying maybe give it a year.
Yeah. All right. So I'd love to have you maybe comment on the characters in the race to the extent that you'd like to. I mean, the American contingent is super strong. Yourself, Eli, Drew Holman, Jeshrin, Anthony Costalis, Nick Handel, etc. Of course, there's great Europeans, great Asian athletes also. And I think for you, it's interesting because you could take it one of two ways, right? Like you've had an amazing season so far. You can win this race, but also like, so my, and I've been asking people similar questions throughout the week is like, you really like here, it's like, you go one of two ways. Like you take a shot to try and win, or you just try and have a solid day. I don't know if there's anything that would be fun to comment there, either on the expected dynamic in the race and how you might respond to that dynamic or control the dynamic yourself.
Yeah. I definitely think it'd be very bold to try and win the race as my first time coming out here and doing that. But, that's not out of the question. I do think my race mindset at States was very different and kind of evolved over the course of the race, where I was like, oh, I'm having a good day. Oh, I'm leading. This isn't real. And then it went from, okay, Caleb's in first, I'm in second. I just need to hold off third. So the last, half of the race, I was very much running away from someone and not running after Caleb. And maybe that hurt me a little bit. Maybe it could have made me run a little bit faster if I was like, I got to catch him. And I'm interested to see if it comes to a situation where I have to make that decision. But I do know that it was really nice getting second at States, but it would have been cool to get first too, right?
Yeah.
So maybe I'm going to be a little bit more bold if I feel I'm in the right position. But I think, racing with expectations is tough sometimes because you can go out, you can have your day, or you can surprise yourself and then have to adapt to how that day is going. And I think I'm just going to have to see how the race starts to, unfold and then make decisions from there. But at least I've experienced a scenario where I think I could have had a better mental outlook that might have had a different change or a different effect on my day. So the point is, if I'm in a good position, I'm going to hopefully take full advantage of it and just go for it.
Yeah. Cool.
But, yeah.
Maybe last question then. You just mentioned to me before we got started that you've obviously been here in Europe for 6 weeks at this point?
Something like that.
One of those weeks you went to the UK and kind of did some testing. And I think this is also one of those things that's representative of what it takes to compete at the top now. If you can give us any visibility into that, I think the audience would be interested.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate to have a nutrition sponsor, which is Precision. And they're very invested in the performance of their athletes. So I went over to their headquarters for about a week in the United Kingdom, and we went through a variety of testings. One was carb oxidation test and basically ran on a treadmill for 2.5 hours and got a bunch of breath samples taken and was doing a certain amount of carbs per hour. And we tracked how many I could really oxidize versus how many I was actually taking. And it turns out it's pretty close to what I was already taking, which is really interesting data because if you can't tolerate a certain amount of carbs, why eat more? Unless sometimes it can help with your recovery. But then you run the risk of having gut issues if you're just overdoing it. If you can't oxidize a certain amount, you shouldn't be doing that much, especially if you have to carry all your fuel for 5-6 hours. So it's definitely helped me narrow the amount of fuel I'm going to be taking with me, especially when there's less opportunities to have crew. But it's on the high end of the sport, I think it's all marginal gains. So if it's just like having your sweat. So if you know for a fact how much salt you lose, how many carbs you burn, it's just another excuse that's just out, checked off that you won't have to have affect you on race day.
Awesome.
So
Chris Myers, congrats on your amazing season, buddy. We hope it continues on Friday.
Hopefully that'd be very nice.
Cheers.